How's it going, everyone? John here, the host of Spear Talk. You might not know this, but before I record an episode, I like to break a sweat. And I do that using the Chop Fit. Over the course of the past year, the Chop Fit has allowed me to lose weight, tone up my body, and feel even more amazing about myself. A feeling that you should all feel about yourselves as well. If you use this code, SpearChop10, you get $10 off your order. Once again, use code SpearChop10 for $10 off your Chop Fit order. It'll change your life. Thank you. How's it going, everyone? John here, the host of Spear Talk, and today we are welcoming the wonderful Ken Kirzinger. Ken is an acclaimed stuntman. He's also an actor that has portrayed some of my favorite characters, from Jason Voorhees and Freddy vs. Jason, Rusty Nail in Joyride 3, and Pa and Wrong Turn 2. As you can see, he's well-versed in horror. I consider him a horror icon. He's played some incredible franchises, but he's also done some amazing work on television and other movies as well through his stunt work. And Ken, it's great to have you on here.
Nice to be here, John. Thanks for giving me a call.
No problem. It's one of those things. I know we were just kind of talking before we hit record here about the conventions and stuff. I know you're a big part of that for obvious reasons. But in the last year or so, obviously that wasn't happening and stuff. Were you able still to kind of keep a relationship going with your fans, whether through social media or stuff? Or because I know fans, for 9 times out of 10, resonate with your character you play because whatever emotions they're feeling, and you feed off their energy as well. So without the conventions, how do you kind of help fans and stuff that might reach out to you in terms of, hey, man, I wish I could give you a hug or that type of stuff?
Well, you know what? I have never been on any social media. It's not that I have anything against it or I'm worried about it. It's just not anything that I got into. So really, there's very few fans that I contact outside, seeing them at conventions and stuff like that. And that makes even that more special for me. I have one or two that are really special. And actually, I'd like to throw a shout out to Shayna Keebler. I'm going to put her onto this, and so she can say that see that I said hi to her. She just finished writing a book, and she's a terrific girl, and just wanted to encourage her writing. I'm sort of big into writing myself, scripts, short stories, and I'm not that in touch with. I don't have books and bobbleheads and all that kind of stuff. So it's really great to see them at the conventions.
It kind of adds to your lore too, because you're not sure where you are at, where you're going to be. Uh, in terms of the actual getting back to work, stunt work, acting, and stuff like that, how has that been for you in terms of the last year and a half now jumping into when you're allowed to do it safely and stuff like that?
You know what? I sort of retired a while ago, and when the whole COVID thing hit, my wife still works in the film business, and so I was kind of the support system for her. I still audition for some stuff here and there, and I kind of retired from stunt work, and because you got to realize I put over 30 years into the
Right.
business, and 30 years of filmmaking is like 60 years because of all the hours you put in. And so I worked hard, and now I'm kind of just enjoying this time and finding new interests, and writing is a big one. I'd love to break into writing scripts professionally, and writing stories, I the last year and a half I haven't done a convention in over a year at
Right.
least, and so yeah, I'm just enjoying what I did do.
Now, in those 30 years, that's a lot of years spent doing a lot of stunt work as well. That must be good for your body too, in terms of the wear and tear, and you can actually live a somewhat full and healthy life as opposed to some of these men and women that love what they do, but as they get older, you can kind of see them losing their kind of balance between the stunt work and their actual real life. So that's kind of cool that you can kind of still be involved with writing, but you
Yeah.
can also not have to worry about lighting yourself on fire or submerging yourself in an ice tank.
I think if somebody actually called me to light myself on fire, I would do that, because that's one of the easiest ones where you don't really get hurt unless they're going to hit you with a car or something like that. But yeah, the tool, I played college basketball and football. I had my injuries doing that, and then got into stunt work. And Yeah, the injury rate in stunt work, just like it is in most professional sports, it's 100%. You're going to get injured, and that was one of the reasons I retired, was because the doctors were saying, you got to stop doing the hard ground pounder stuff, and I just thought, stunt coordinating is interesting, but it's not what I got in the business for. I love doing stunts. It was just so much fun. And I just, I realized the other day I was watching Hooper,
Yep.
about 2 weeks ago. Hadn't seen it in a bunch of years, and I was bored and put Hooper on. I realized that pretty much every stuntman of my generation that I knew wanted to be Hooper, and
Yep.
I started remembering all these situations where various stunt people enacted scenes from that movie, whether it's partying all night and then going and watching, the stunt reel at the end of the night with a bunch of friends and stuff and having a few drinks and doing that, or some of the other not quite legal things were in the movie. But everybody wanted to be Hooper, and I got into it because it was a fun business, and I just couldn't imagine doing anything else.
Now, you kind of told me we were reaching out, talking to each other about you coming on the show, and you kind of told me about your brief but it seemed very interesting background in security, bouncing, club security, backstage at different concerts as you're a young kid. So, could you kind of touch upon, did that action backstage, dealing with the hustle bustle, Hollywood music, did that kind of get your interest going to maybe one day become an actor or get involved in the Hollywood lifestyle?
Um, I read an article about a stuntman when I was like 12 years old, Hal Needham, and I plugged that into my head. I always loved watching movies and stuff like that, and I thought, I'd like to be a stuntman one day. And as time went on, I was in college and I blew my knee out playing football, and my sister was living in Los Angeles, and I ended up going down to visit her. That's how I got into stunt work. The working backstage stuff, though, gave you a taste of real celebrity, what they go through, and how protected they have to be, and the price of real fame. And so it was interesting from that perspective, and sort of taught me when I got on sets, how to better behave around, celebrities and people who are inundated with fans and stuff like that all the time. So it was educational from that point of view.
Growing up, my grandparents and my parents, obviously, they'd always, hey, just when I started young age, I started watching Evil Knievel and all these daredevil type people, the Pendragons and all this crazy stuff. And it wasn't until I was older that I really appreciated what this guy did, Evil, in terms of the putting himself out there for maybe there's selfish reasons, a little bit of it, maybe some ego on his part, but to put himself out there to be that type of person. I don't. If I really love stunt work and I would see that, I would not stop until I became a stuntman. And I think, is that something too where you watch people like that or Hooper or stuff where it's like, man, these, you see how people every language, doesn't matter what background, you see this guy jump over a thing of buses or flaming tire, whatever it is, and you're in awe of the spectacle of it. I think there's something really to that.
It's the same, I think, with anything you want to do. Is passion. If you have a passion for it, and you have to have the ability to, but I think the passion will create the ability. You might not be the best at it to start, but if you work hard enough, you can get there. And so if you have enough passion for something, it makes all the difference in the world. If you're doing it just for the money, it's hard to get up in the morning. But I remember driving to work, top down, my big stunt bag beside me, and being the happiest man in the world. The sun was up and I was going to wreck a car or get set on fire or whatever I was doing that day. And I had that passion. And I think you probably had a passion for your security work.
Yeah.
And you do that, and then you might develop a passion for another thing, which is what you're doing now, which is fantastic. And I really encourage that in people, to find what their passion is, and don't make it about the money. The money will come.
No, and I love that. Uh, it's for me, like obviously with the pandemic, I start this podcast, and I'm still doing security with bands and all that stuff. But for me to wake up every morning, I do need to find that passion every day, whether that's get the workout that I need, or reading a book, or whatever it is. The passion, the people I see that are very unsuccessful in security business, and obviously you can attest to in stunt work or acting, they lose that fire in their eye, and it's the saddest thing to see someone that has all that potential and not to fulfill it.
Yes, and it can really drive people to accomplish amazing things. And so I just encourage that in everyone I meet. And
Right,
and if you lose your passion for something, find another one.
right.
Find that reason to get up in the morning and where you're really excited about doing what you're doing.
Now you mentioned your stunt bag next to you. What exactly is inside a stunt bag?
Everything. I mean, everything. So my stunt bag is about is about 4 feet long and about 2 feet around. Big duffel bag. Got my name printed on the outside of it, and every pad I own fits in that bag. Plus, some of my fire gear, car stuff, whatever I think I might need is in that bag. So I can throw that in my car and go virtually do, pretty much any stunt that, that's required. Besides all the rigging and cable and, all that stuff. But I used to call it my midget bag, because you could easily put a small person in there and carry them around. Yeah, so
When it comes to preparing for a stunt for another actor in a movie versus you as the actor in that movie, is your preparation mental or physical change at all in terms of how you prepare for what you're about to do?
not really. I mean, when you're doubling somebody, you have to become that person. The way they move is very important. I had a friend of mine who doubled Robin Williams for many years, and I mean, he learned to move just like Robin, and so that's the difference. When you're playing yourself, you don't have to worry about that, and you would be able to see a difference on screen between those two.
In Freddy vs. Jason, in terms you actually had to play Jason, so how does that, like, in terms of insurance and like the director and whoever it is in the movie, they need you to play Jason, but do they bring in another stuntman to do the crazy stunts, or you kind of push it back going, hey, I could do this, or I should be able to do this since I'm doing
Yeah.
both, or how does that work?
Well, so I worked on number 8, Jason Takes Manhattan,
Yes.
as the stunt coordinator, and I doubled Kane Hodder, the guy that played Jason in that one. And Kane was a big enough budget movie that they didn't want to risk him for the car hit. Sometimes they have 2 units going and they need another Jason on the other set to do, and they'll use me to do the stunt. And let him go do his acting thing. And so, I have to take on his persona of the character, like in the subway sequence,
Yes.
walking on the subway and then falling out and getting electrocuted. I had to try and pretend I was him. In Freddy versus Jason, we developed new body language for Jason in that movie. And because they wanted him to be more sympathetic, I think, and yet be the big monster that fans were used to. So yeah.
One of our fans, Lori, was wondering, in terms of when you become Jason hiding behind the mask, or say Pa in Wrong Turn 2, if you're ever in a role where your face is distorted, you can't cover, no one can really see your emotions. How tough is it for you to act and still show that empathy towards a character like Jason? You really can't see your facial expressions behind the mask, but somehow when you watch that movie, especially in the dream sequence where he's in the water and stuff, you actually feel sorry for him. I look at that going, well, this guy that's playing Jason's actually playing Jason as a human, as opposed to this meandering Neanderthal who just kills people. So how do you kind of convey emotion underneath the mask or like heavy makeup?
People have asked that before, and I think about it. Like 90% of our language is body language. Probably when you were working security and you see somebody and they stand out because of their body language, and you keep an eye on that person because you sense their body language. And that is what happens when you play a character like that. And you have to emote just as much or even more when your face is covered, and people pick up on it. they see the shoulders come up, and you're scared. They see your body language move forward, and you're being aggressive. So it's there for them to read. It's more a subconscious reading, but people pick up on it.
In it's obviously the movies, the Avengers, and you got Avengers, X-Men, you got all these characters fighting each other. But when you first Freddy vs. Jason first comes out, that's the first time two rival franchises go head to head like that. It must be pretty cool for you to say you were part of that history in terms of movies, because now it almost happens every other week on TV or movies. But you guys and Robert Englund, you were at the forefront of this crazy idea that is just awesome.
I just found out it was a little cooler the other day because apparently Hugh Jackman said that he would love to play Jason. I wish I had known that when I worked with him. I did one of the X-Men 3, I think. I was doubling Colossus, and I had this scene where I had to grab him and spin him around and throw him, and he was on cables and stuff. And I wish I had mentioned it to him, or he had brought that up, or I knew that. I did a stunt fight once with Ben Affleck, and he found out that I had played Jason, and he was like, "You played Jason? That's so cool," So I always say, Jason is famous, and I was really lucky that I got to play him. It's very cool.
And I love Kane. He's very passionate. CJ Graham, veteran, military veteran, awesome guy as well. So when you guys kind of see each other, is there ever anything weird that you have, like that weird, like I was a taller Jason, or I was the biggest, or I had the best kill, or is it one of those things where you were all lucky and fortunate to play an iconic character, and then when you're at conventions and see each other, it's like, hey, like this is pretty cool, we're part of this?
It was weird in the beginning because Kane was very upset that he didn't get to play it, and I think he took it out on me a little bit. For a few years, and I think he finally grew out of that. Sort of pulled me aside one day, and he goes, "That's over." And but it can get a little weird with him because he's so much wants to identify with the character and stuff.
Right.
And he's really made a great career out of it and stuff. The rest of the guys are very easygoing, and we're losing a couple. We've lost a couple, which I'm very sad about. And Ted White, love the guy. Yep. He's like 94 now or something like that. Such a great stunt career, and love seeing him. And so when we get together, it's all great. It's we have nobody's we get along.
When you were you a fan of Friday the 13th before, or had you watched the other Joyrides or seen Wrong Turn 1, where you kind of like, I want to play in this world? So how do you kind of get, obviously they know your background with stunts, you can play these imposing figures. How does that kind of, is it crazy for you to be part of two other world like famous franchises in horror?
Some of that came because I played Jason in Freddy vs. Jason. They wanted me to be in their movies because of that. And and I had done a lot of what I call suit jobs, playing a werewolf or a robot, or, and then these other jobs came along, and I did not know what a big deal it was to play Jason. It's just that iconic and worldwide, that people, know that character all over the world. That's what got weird. That's when I was doing the job, people started coming up to me and they go, what a big deal this is. I didn't know what a big deal was. I'm not on social media and stuff like that. And then my relatives started saying, look at all this stuff. And then one day, Robert and I were doing a radio show, I think in San Diego. And we came out of the radio station, and there was about 15, 20 people waiting outside. And that's when I knew, this is crazy. This is really, really a big deal.
One of the 2018, before the pandemic, I'm out on the road with Shine Down. We have a day off in Calgary, and this is horror convention. Ted Raimi, Dee Wallace, Robert Englund's there, Meatloaf. Well, we're just talking next to, I think, Nick Castle. And then the guitar player, Zach, starts talking to Robert. Hey, this is who I am, blah, blah, blah. And it felt like Robert, he knew every stuntman, every coordinator, every key grip, is that something where you guys, obviously you know the other side of it because you are the stunt guy, you're behind the scenes as well. How awesome is it when you see like these main actors actually remember who people are and be so like thankful to someone who has to double Robert, or it just kind of blew my mind. I was like, man, this is a guy that I've watched his movies growing up, scared the hell out of me as a kid, but here he is talking about the guy that served catering and the backstage during Dream Warriors. And I'm just like, it's amazing.
Robert has an amazing memory. I
It
mean,
scared me.
you want to know the best restaurant in Amsterdam or the best hotel, or you want to talk about actors and or stunts, and he has an amazing memory. And I love working with him. He was just so great right off the bat. And as a matter of fact, the first time I saw him, he goes, well, we'll be seeing each other for the rest of our lives now. And I didn't know why. And I said, well, why is that? And he goes, conventions. I'll tell you all about it. Yeah, he's an amazing guy, Robert. Really enjoy his company, and his wife Nancy is
Yep.
fantastic too.
One of your other great characters, obviously, is Rescue Dale in Joyride 3. And what I love about the character is that if he wasn't bothered or like harassed or whatever, he would have just kept driving down the road. And I find that type of horror really just very mesmerizing. You play the character like, hey, if you left me alone, we wouldn't be in this predicament. But now that we are, I'm gonna play by my rules. And so for a character like that, how fun is it to kind of create something like that where it's you really do kind of, you know what, he might deserve to kill these people.
Well, I think people can identify with, boy, I'd like to do that. I
Yeah.
mean, you only have to look at all the accounts of road rage and people getting upset. And these days, I think people get less polite. Politeness was a big deal way back in the day because, if you weren't, somebody would call you out for a duel, or and these days people don't realize, as much. I think being polite to people. I have just one theory on life, and that is, being a good person doesn't guarantee you that good things will happen to you, but it vastly increases the odds. So if you go out and I think Will Smith said in one of his movies, don't start nothing, and there won't be nothing.
Right.
And so people, I think, being polite, understanding that maybe somebody's having a bad day, letting it go, is much better than exercising your rights, because you can.
Right. One of our followers, Fernando, was wondering, and myself too, what was your toughest stunt you've had to do so far? And is there a particular stunt that you are really fond of doing, where whether it's fire, car crash, something like that?
Um, I think one that I was sort of particularly proud of was, I was doubling Jeff Goldblum in a movie called Hideaway,
Oh,
and
hell yeah.
and have you seen that movie?
Yeah.
It's an old one, but and we had to do. There's a scene where he's coming down the mountain with his family, and he's driving the car, and they're talking, kind of distracted, and there's a gravel truck coming up the mountain, and so I had to slide the car sideways and hit the front of the gravel truck, 50 miles an hour, and then spin off, and then car goes off the side of the road, and that sequence. But there's more to that part of the sequence. There's more to that sequence, but I did it first take, right in the camera crosshairs. If I had been too deep, he would have T-boned me, and that would have been, a tough knock to take. And if I had gone too shallow, the stunt wouldn't have worked. And so I was pretty happy with that one. That one's that always sticks out in my mind.
Now, in Freddy vs. Jason, the chord scene with the fire, was that you, or is that is
That was Glenn Ennis. He is a good friend of mine. He ended up doubling me for that sequence. That was the only sequence I went to the producers at the beginning of when they told me I had the job, and I knew that I was going to have a double. I said, "Listen, there's only one stunt I want to do in this movie. That's the fire in the cornfield, because I knew that it would get nominated for a World Stunt Award.
Yes.
And but they wouldn't let me do it. But I'll tell you the funny part about, you know, they go, no, Ken, you're the one of the stars of the movie. We're hiring you as an actor. So the last night of filming, Glenn was dressed in the right costume for, I think, the hand coming out of the ground or something like that. And they're going, you know, Ken, would you do the ratchet out of the back of the van when the van flips? And I go, I'm back to being expendable again. so yeah, I said, yeah, I'll do the ratchet out of the back of the van.
The scene in the water though, into that movie, when your eyes are open, like that looks super real. Like that was obviously you, but what's that? How do you film a scene like that? Is it a hot, like a water tank, or
Yeah, we were filming up the wave. We had it's called the wave tank at UBC. They use it to test boats, and so we were shooting in there, and they poured all kinds of you know, chlorine and debris in the water to make it look real. And so the hard part was I was supposed to keep my eye open, my eyes open. Only one was prosthetic, built into the mask, and the other was my real eye. But anyway, I just sink into the water with my eye open, and I kept getting debris in it and stuff like that. And the chlorine was just burning. And I think we did, you know, 5 or 6 takes of that. And that was probably the hardest thing of the show.
The organization Stunts Canada, is that something that is like a film or film? If a film comes up to Canada, they want to hire a stunt team, they reach out to Stunts Canada. Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so in the States, it started there's the Stuntmen's Association, Stunts Unlimited, and then a whole plethora of new groups that are out there. So Stunts Canada was initially formed to provide professional stuntmen to the film business when they would come to Canada, so that they could go there and say, okay, because anybody can say they're stuntman and make up a bit of a resume and stuff like that. So it was created so that the producers could, you know, go and hire reliable, experienced stunt people. And it's grown into, it's the oldest stunt group in Canada. I can't tell you how much better the stunt guys are now than we were back then. You know, they tend to specialize more now, and so anytime you do that, you're going to be better at the car stuff, better at the ratchet stuff, better at the fight stuff. So the group is really just phenomenal these days, and of course does huge projects, you know, all over the world, but mainly in Canada.
When it comes to a big fight scene like the X-Men movies or some of the 13th Warrior, like all this crazy like fight stuff going on, people on horses over here, in terms of the layout of that movie, how much control is the director give the stunt coordinator and bring all you guys into a room and say, hey, we're going to rehearse this, obviously, but how many takes does that take to film something there was so much craziness going on?
My biggest experience with that was working on came out as the 13th Warrior.
Eaters of the Dead.
Antonio Banderas.
Yes.
And my buddy was coordinating. He called me up to come help him coordinate. I was already going to work on it doing stunts, and we had, you know, hundreds of head of horses. We had, you know, nearly 100 stunt people working on set. We had big battle scenes. And so we would meet with the director. The director would tell us his vision. You know, we all have the script, so we read it, but the director gives you his vision. You get an idea sometimes of the shots he wants to do, but I think in that situation, on that movie, we had to be ready for just about anything at any time. And it just takes a lot of organization, a lot of forethought. You know, preparation is everything. If you're prepped and organized, it goes off smoothly.
I think it's important to point out that even if we're not talking about an action movie or a horror movie or something with a lot of crazy stunts, even movies where someone that simply falls down the steps or puts their hand through a coffee table or runs into a door, those actors still have stuntmen or stunt women doing that stuff. And I think that's really cool that people always expect, superhero movies, there's Robert Downey's Iron Man stuntman, but no, that same stunt double is probably doing something in another movie that's no action whatsoever, but some simple mistake could derail this movie. It's really cool that the stuntmen and women actually get to do all types of movies. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's part of the thrill of it for me was I always said to myself, I never wanted to be in the same place doing the same thing with the same people. I get bored easily, and stunt work was great for that. I'd get a phone call to go. I got a good story about Burt Reynolds. So I was doubling an actor on a movie called Malone with Burt Reynolds, and
Yep.
they had kept me sitting around, for a few days, and I was booked on another show in Calgary. And I kept telling him, I go, listen, I got a hard date, I got to go. And the stunt was the character gets shot in the head and then falls through a trap door on the second floor of a barn and falls through. And I had a bloody squib pack on the back of my head full of cottage cheese and fake blood, and a wig on over that. And so we finally get to it, and I was like, my flight's booked, I got to go. And they go, oh, okay. So they reorganized the day to shoot me out that day. And I get up there with Burt Reynolds, and I'm like, Burt Reynolds, Hooper, was standing right in front of me. And so we do the shot, boom, one take, I do the fall, and I got to go straight to the airport. Not any time to clean the cottage cheese and blood out of my hair. So I put on my Stunts Canada hat. I go straight to the airport, and I get on the flight, and people are looking at me like, are you all right? Have you hit your head or anything like that? I wore that shit all the way to Calgary, and checked into the hotel with it in my hair and everything. But I loved it. I was like, I gotta go.
Yeah, no, I love that. When you're watching a movie now, or I don't know if you're really into watching movies or TV and stuff, but
Sorry.
when you are doing that, watching TVs, are you watching it, looking at the stunts, going, I could have done that better, or why did they do it this way? Or do you kind of just, once you're not part of the production, you don't kind of quarterback something like that?
I tend, obviously, if I see a really exceptional stunt, I pay attention to it. I still enjoy going to, one of my favorite things is going to a movie theater and buying popcorn and watching it on the big screen. Stunt work these days it's hard to tell what's real and what's fake these days. I mean, they're doing such amazing work of blending. So I still put on, my little kid glasses and love going to the theater and watching it, and for all the same reasons I did when I was younger. But it's certainly, you see some amazing stunts.
Now, you mentioned you're going to start writing and doing all this stuff. Are you going to be writing from the sense of, man, I could write a really cool stunt scene here, or I could write a really good action scene? Like, that must help you creatively kind of put together some really cool pieces.
Yeah, it's for me, and the way I was educated in the stunt business, the action always services the story. So when I'm writing, that's what it does. I don't write a story around a stunt. I write the stunt around the story. But it certainly helps because I know what can be done and how, and so it helps that way.
I know obviously the last 10 years or so, there's been more of a soul push of a award recognition for stunt men and women. I think it's the Saturn Awards or Jupiter, wherever they are. But do you think there's enough being done to honor stunt men and women, or is it something where they can still improve upon that in the more mainstream award show type stuff?
There still isn't an Academy Award for stuntmen. I think it's the only department that doesn't have an award. And I know that people are working to try to make that happen. The awards I think you're thinking about are called the Taurus Awards.
Yes, Taurus Awards. Yep.
And I got another funny story about the first one of those I went to. Anyway, yes, I think that stunt people should get more. I was raised in the business where you still didn't tell people you were doubling the actor. Kane Hodder came to me on number 8 and said, "Hey, don't tell anybody you doubled me, okay?" All right. That's the way I was raised in the business. We were there so that people didn't know. And that, now it's more out there, and, that you don't worry about that. And I think that they do deserve more recognition, at least with the Academy.
One of the, and not to really drastically change the subject here, but I know you are passionate about extraterrestrials, UFOs, all this type of crazy stuff. In the last year and a half, there's been declassification, everything like that. Before we really talk about that, what is your favorite alien sci-fi movie?
Well, I mean, Alien was a fantastic movie. I think I saw that when I was 18 in the theater, and Star Wars started off great. I'm not so happy with it lately. I haven't. The first three, fantastic. Um, those movies I think influenced me a lot. They were just really great to watch. Jaws was kind of sci-fi, or not. I guess it wasn't sci-fi, more of a horror, but that was another
Right.
one that I really, really loved.
Like
Yeah.
I would watch Predator and Aliens growing up,
Well,
always thinking, "Oh, it's so robotic," but it's like these are real, like Michael Peter Hall and Predator and all that, and these men and women that would play these stunts for the actual aliens. It really is crazy. You're part of an industry that a human can make something look so real.
uh, I was working with one of the stunt men, or maybe I can't remember his name now, but he was going down to work on Predator, and he said, we're looking for a tall guy in a suit. Would you be interested? And then I never heard anything about it again. But yes, working in a suit, is it's the hardest job you'll do as a stuntman. But what was it? The Color of Water?
Yes, The Shape of Water.
The Shape of Water. I mean,
Yep.
what a fantastic job he did.
Doug
That
Jones,
actor
right?
I'm not sure of his name.
I think it was Doug Jones. Yeah.
Doug Jones. What a phenomenal job he does in makeup, and he's done a bunch, and that was just fantastic.
No, it really is. And about the alien stuff, I've always been fascinated with it, and I've always wanted to believe that there's stuff out there.
Yeah.
What is it about that subject matter that really kind of gets you engaged and wants to learn and kind of research about stuff, especially the last year or so, all the declassification from all the UFO stuff?
Right. Well, I'd like to preface this first by saying that I take everything with a grain of salt.
Correct.
It hasn't been proven to me yet, but I find the subject matter really interesting, and there's certainly some really, really compelling arguments and stuff. The people are saying this new footage, these three videos of the UFOs. They're saying, well, I mean, we don't have anything like that, and we don't think they have anything like that. So that means that maybe it's not from this world, which means there could be aliens. There's one other thing it could be. It could be a huge psyop,
Right.
to convince people for whatever reason at this point in history that there are these people visiting us. What that could be, I don't know. The technology, the pilots, could they be testing this stuff on their own pilots to see how convincing it is?
Right.
Who knows? I mean, Lou Elizondo's background is counterintelligence.
Yep.
Did they just give him a new job? I don't know.
Right.
I'd like to. They say they've got much more convincing footage. Well, let's get the evidence out there and see.
It is
But
it
the
is
possibility,
fascinating.
yeah,
Right. It's very fascinating to live in this time now where they're actually talking about this stuff. Like before growing up in the 80s for me, I was born in 85, 90s, the 2000s. It was like, there's a book the president signs, all that. It's Area 51, all this. But to see this stuff actually be more mainstream, I do think that is pretty cool. And like you like you said, you can't really. These videos are coming out from like ships and naval ships and military people with 20, 30-year careers who've done reports on the stuff, and it's finally coming out. It's like, well, I want to believe people, and
yeah.
obviously there's some people we can't believe, but the unknown is what's so fascinating.
Well, I don't know if you know, but I worked on X-Files. I was the
Yes.
stunt coordinator on that for the pilot in the first two seasons, and around about that time, I think Whitley Strieber's book came out about alien abductions. And it was one of the reasons why the show was such a big hit. I'm really interested in the subject matter. I want to keep seeing new information come along and see where we go with it. As well as Graham Hancock's work. I mentioned that to you.
Yeah.
Really interesting theory, and he with that accent of his, and he's such an eloquent speaker. You want to believe what he has to say. I actually went to his website, and there was a little blurb there about them discovering elongated skulls in Antarctica. And then I did some research and found out that it was probably a made-up story. So again, take things with a grain of salt, do your own research, but that doesn't stop my interest in it.
No, and I think we talked about that earlier, but some of the Graham Hancock with the pre-civilization floods, or Dr. Stephen Greer with the consciousness of CE5, with alien intelligence. Those
Yeah.
people have a passion.
Yeah.
And who are we to say your passion's wrong? They believe in what they're saying. They're researching, they're studying, they're talking about it, they're being courageous about it. And
Yeah.
those type of people I love following, because we see that passion in real terms.
Stephen Greer is really interesting to me because of the whole consciousness thing. I
Yep.
mean, quantum physics, and I'm not an expert or anything like that, but quantum physics is coming up with some really, I guess, counterintuitive ideas on life and how much our consciousness can affect reality. And I don't know. I think that consciousness is needs to be studied so much more. And have you heard of? I think it's called the World Consciousness Organization.
I've heard of this.
Yeah. So you know that they have all these random number generators set up all over the world, and on a big event like 9/11, these random number generators turn non-random. In other words, they stopped. They seem to be affected by the consciousness of the world.
Right.
That's fascinating, because if that was true, then what we think affects our reality.
Right.
You can go right down a rabbit hole on this, but I find that stuff pretty interesting too.
Well, I hate talking. I never talk politics out here, but I think majority of people would agree that the media is so, wherever the media is doing, I can't stand it. That's why I don't watch TV or whatever. But when you look at when media puts something out, the people believe what they hear or see or whatever. Obviously, now are they trying to control the consciousness of what people think and believe and feel? I mean, the whole thing is so fascinating, and the fact that there are people that want to believe it, and there are people that don't want to believe it, or are trying to not let other people believe it. Where that line meets is where I love just researching and kind of just trying to understand the whole thing.
Yeah, it's again, consciousness, quantum physics. One of the things in quantum physics is they say that every time you make a decision, it's like you split, and there's a reality where you said yes and a reality where you said no, which if you take that to, if there is a God or a creator and it lived forever, what would be the one thing that would happen? You'd get pretty bored if you didn't have diversity.
Yes.
And so if that's true, if every time you make a decision, you create a new reality, well, how many reality shows are on TV right now? It's interesting that could be a possibility. And in which case, maybe if you believe there's something after life, maybe there is. If you don't believe there's something after life, maybe there isn't.
Right, and that's okay. That's what I love, that we can have these different views of this stuff.
Yeah. True.
One of the things, this must bother you too, though. Every time there is footage of a UFO, it's always never on like a professional camera. It's never broad daylight. It's never on like a full moon. Part of me just thinks I know we all know they have better footage that's out there, what they're putting out there. But I do find it interesting that even if they give us a taste of it or a sniff of what this could be, it's always blurred, or that guy that took the video was actually drunk. It was foggy out. It's just like, well, what is it? Like, you still can't explain what this is.
Yeah, I mean, there's that drone footage where the drone is following one of the ships, and then it goes into the water.
Yes, splashes down.
Right. I mean, so I don't think there's a drone out there that they built right now that I know of that goes from air to water, but that doesn't mean that they couldn't build one.
Right.
And was it doing anything that a normal drone in the air that a normal drone couldn't do? I mean, was it exceeding the speed? Was it moving in a way that a drone would move? All I saw was it moving along at a steady pace, and then eventually it dropped into the water.
Right.
well, is that doesn't tell me much, so again, you got to sort of think these things through a bit and allow for the possibility that it could be something you don't know about.
What would scare you more, knowing that when it's an alien aircraft or that it's a man-made weapon type thing that hasn't been released yet? Which one would scare you more?
I'm I'm inclined to think that um, we haven't had any really bad experiences with UFOs. I mean, there are stories about
The
UFOs
fire
attacking
in the
soldiers
sky,
in,
and
in in battle only after they attacked it, right?
right,
So no UFO has ever shown up and been aggressive on its own. I mean, unless you have to count the people who say they've been abducted. Of course, that an aggressive action, but they seem to bring people back.
right,
So I'm of the mind that, with all the things we're facing, global warming, um, you know, wars, uh, AI, the
pandemics,
possibilities,
right, right,
pandemics. If they're out there and they can help us get through this really difficult time, because we're not facing one thing that could really harm mankind. We're facing multiple things that could
right.
harm mankind. And so if they haven't done anything, untoward so far, I'm of the mind that they're probably either benign or they want us to, be successful. They remember, most of the UFO people think that they're obviously really interested. They became most interested in us after after the bomb got dropped,
Right.
and they realized that we had the ability to destroy this world. And then you've got soldiers reporting that they're showing up at nuclear missile silos and shutting them down or turning them on, basically showing, hey, we've got control of this, so don't even bother, kind of thing.
Right.
And I think if they're here, I think they're here for a good purpose and not a bad one.
It would just be so awesome too. Just be like he comes down there, like, hey Ken, man, loved your work and X Files, keep it going. Thanks for your help. We'll talk in our minds. I think there's just something to that where
Yeah.
in terms of the first two seasons of X Files, and I think the first four, I mean the show was amazing. And I even love the movies too because it talks about the unknown and the truth is
Yeah.
actually out there. But those first two seasons, what episodes kind of hit close, or which ones did you really gravitate towards in terms of maybe building your consciousness towards like learning more about aliens and stuff like that?
Um, the show, I got to be in an episode
Yes.
called Ice, and so that was, and I even got a trading card, an X Files trading card with my picture on it out of it. So I was really happy with that episode. Um, I had read up a lot on the alien abductions and stuff like that. I read Whitley Strieber's book, and so it didn't enlighten me a lot about the subject matter. I had already read quite a bit about it, and I just thought it was very timely to get it out there. But you'll notice that every second episode that they focused on, the
Yes.
UFO and the abduction of his sister. And then the monster episodes were fantastic. I mean,
Yes.
my favorite one of that was the Fluke Man,
Yep.
Fluke Man episode, and what was the episode called where he stretched, um, and he would come down the chimney or whatever and kill people, and they couldn't figure out how he got in the house, and so that was a really creepy one too.
No, it's really cool. And for you, as we kind of wrap this up, when it comes to movies, television, in the stunt world, is it easier for you to kind of be on a show where the people for the longevity of the time you're on the show, or is it easier for you to break up a movie based on stunts itself?
Um, it all depends on the vibe of the people you're working with. You can walk in and it's just negative, and you get in, you get out, and you're just happy to do it. And usually, they say the shit runs downhill. So if you've got a producer or a director or an actor that's making things difficult for everybody, you don't want to be there. It's not fun. But I remember I worked on Legends of the Fall,
Oh, yeah.
and I had worked with Brad Pitt before, and I'd worked with a bunch of the other actors before, and I walked into the makeup trailer, and they all remembered me from various stunts I had done with them and stuff. And Anthony Hopkins was in the trailer, and he just turned around and he goes, "Well, I suppose I should get to know you. My name's Tony." And you know, the whole vibe of the trailer was just so great,
Right.
and it was just such a fun show to work on because of that.
I find it interesting if you're stunting for an actor who is having a bad day. I get how some people have a bad day and they don't mean to be that person. But if you are an asshole in real life and you treat the crew like shit, the local people terrible, it, you as an artist yourself and as a stuntman have to do this crazy stunt to make this person look good. But are there days where you could have just been like, you know what, this isn't for me. I can't work this fine because when it comes to the safety, in the back of your mind, you're worried about your guy you're doubling that's being an asshole. And so how do you kind of deal with that? Or are you that type of person where in your prime doing all this stuff nonstop that you were just kind of like, you know what, I can pick and choose what I do. I know this, I've heard this guy's a prick or whatever. Like how do you kind of separate the person from the actual job you're there for?
Well, in some cases, most cases I have, but the only real stunt I ever turned down was a fight scene, I think, with Steven Seagal.
Oh, damn it.
Because he had such a bad reputation for hurting stuntmen.
Yes.
And I personally knew one of the stunt guys. He stuffed his face into a bureau and broke his teeth. And so many actors that I respect have bad stories about him and stuff. And I just have no desire to work with them.
Right.
You know, no respect for stunt people, little respect for anybody else, and why go through that? You know, there's so many great actors out there that are fantastic to work with, that respect, you know, what you do and stuff, and that's where you want to be.
No, I love that. I love that you're able to do the stunt work and be in front of the camera as well, as the actor or the main piece there. And it's just really cool. And I'm looking forward to your work you put out there, your writing and your stuff you're producing. And I can't thank you enough for jumping on here, Ken.
John, it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much. I wish I'd gotten to talk to you more about your security work.
Well, we'll do a part 2. How about that?
Anytime.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
All right. You take care.
Thank you all for checking out this week's episode. Once again, I'm John. If you like what you heard and saw today, subscribe to our YouTube channel, find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and check out our brand new merch store with hats, coffee mugs, t-shirts, other cool stuff coming down the pipeline. Again, thank you all for support. Be safe and see you next week.